Denne episoden er presentert i samarbeid med Palo Alto Networks. Palo Alto Networks er et amerikansk multinasjonalt cybersikkerhetsselskap med hovedkvarter i Santa Clara, California, men nå veldig til stede i norske markeder. Deres kjerneprodukter er en plattform som inkluderer avanserte brandmurer og skybaserte tilbud som utvider brandmurene til å dekke andre sikkerhetsaspekter. Sjekk ut paloaltonetworks.com. Hei og velkommen til en ny episode av SMB Norge Podcasten, presentert i samarbeid med Palo Alto Networks. Palo Alto Networks driver jo med cybersecurity, så sjekk dem ut, folkens. Og vi sitter også her i toppen av Stenhuset med et ganske så levende lydbilde, så bare godta hvis det skulle skje noe. Og så må jeg advare våre, skal vi si, landsens lyttere. Dette blir et opptak på engelsk, så bær over med meg. Det er ganske lenge siden jeg har brukt engelsk aktivt. Men derfor har jeg med meg deg, Åsmund Prytz.
Hallo, hallo.
Ja, du er jo da
hello.
min EU-aid, helping me out, my crouch, just in case. Men du gjør altså internasjonale prosjekter for oss, det kan vi si før vi går i gang.
Ja, jeg jobber med et par internasjonale prosjekter for SMB Norge. Vi har et prosjekt som hjelper flyktninger fra Ukraina i Tsjekkia, med å starte egen bedrift i Tsjekkia eller Norge, eller andre steder i Europa. Og et energiprosjekt i Romania som skal starte nå, eller startet nå nylig.
Ja, og da skal jeg prøve å gå over på norvengelsk. Og ta the description from a debate. I'm not sure if it has been already or is going to be, but it's from the party of Venstre, Liberal Party Venstre. What does it mean to be a liberal? Member of the European Parliament and Vice President of the Alliance of Liberals and Democrats for Europe Party, Svenja Hahn, meet the mayoral candidate in Kristiansand, Jakob Haugmoen Hannegard, and the candidate for county mayor of Agder, Beate Marie Johnsen, on stage. They will discuss what it means to be a liberal across different political levels. Further, they will elaborate on how the European level can benefit regional and local politicians. So, Svenja Hahn, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yes, you're very happy. Even Norwegian would be preferred, but we will do our best.
Jag pratar lite svenska, men jag tror jag kan prata bättre om mitt jobb i EU på engelska, men jag kan försöka lite.
Nej, det är helt okej, Svenja.
Okej, tack.
Let's start there. Why do you speak a bit Swedish?
That was actually my Corona project. So when everything shut down, everyone had suddenly time at their hands. Back in the days when we thought, okay, this is going to be like 4 weeks at home. Yeah. So I started learning Swedish as a Corona project.
And why Swedish? Why not Norwegian?
That's a good question. Actually, my head of office in the European Parliament, she is a Swedish-speaking Finn. And she was learning German, and I thought I learned Swedish. And then we were like a language tandem.
Okay, cool. I am actually Finnish. My mother is Finnish, and I used to speak Finnish, but it's such a bizarre, strange language that it's long gone 30 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I rather learn Swedish than learning Finnish, to be honest, because as a German speaker, Swedish is a bit closer to home there, yeah.
Yeah, but then again, for the unknowing audience, we are a local, medium, small-sized business organization. Svenja Hahn, who is Svenja Hahn? Tell us a little bit about your background and your life travel up to now or whatever.
Yeah, happy to do that.
What do you want to share? Yeah.
So I'm a member of the European Parliament from Germany. I'm working in the committees for single market and international trade. So I work with a lot of SMEs and European and international trade. And I have also focused on digitalization. So I'm working a lot with the legislation on artificial intelligence at the moment. And my background is coming from business side. I worked in SMEs myself. I was head of communication in a German SME before I joined the parliament. And I have been originally coming from youth politics. I've been active on European youth politics level for quite some years, being the president of the European Young Liberals before entering the parliament.
Yes. And how come is that politics became your path to tread on? What started your initiative to be there?
I think I joined politics like many people because I was mad with the status quo.
Okay.
I wanted to change things when I started studying in 2009. I was very, very keen on studying history, but I couldn't because there was a big strike of students and they were blocking the university buildings, which kind of upset me because I was like, you're not making education better by keeping people away from one.
No.
So I thought, well, but who are you to complain? I mean, they're at least doing something.
Do something, yeah.
So you should do something and make the world a better place.
Yes.
And that's when I joined the Liberal Party of Germany, ran for the student council, and very soon got hooked up on EU topics and became active in the European-wide Young Liberal organization.
Oh, cool. In my background, I've worked, amongst others, 13 years for FedEx, and I met a lot of people from Germany, and I remember there were so many things they couldn't do in Germany because there were stricter rules in Germany.
Yeah, we have a lot of bureaucracy in Germany, a lot of red tape, and we're very far behind when it comes to digitalization on efficient processes. And this is something we're working currently on. My party, the FDP, is currently in government. And this is something that we have a strong focus on, making it easier, less rules, less bureaucracy in Germany.
Yeah. And do you represent, how does this work with the EU Parliament? Are you elected directly there, or are you as a representative from Germany and voted in through Germany, or?
Yeah, so the elections are taking place at a national level.
Yeah.
So there's a period of 4 days. So elections are next year in June, beginning of June. It's a period of 4 days to respect national voting traditions. You know, some countries vote on a weekday. My country, like Germany, we always vote on a Sunday. And then Sunday evening, all the results come in. So the parties run on a national level, and it's the member state deciding how they vote. So in Germany, we have one nationwide list. So the parties have nationwide lists they are running with. But in other member states like Ireland, they elect their MEPs on a commune level.
Yeah.
So it's a very different electoral system depending on the member country. So you're elected from one country, but you are supposed to represent all of the EU citizens.
Yes, of course. And the Alliance of Liberals and Democrats for Europe, or ALDE. Tell us about that. What for an unknown listener, what is ALDE?
So, like you have parties like Venstre in Norway, that is the Norwegian member party. We have the Liberal Party of Germany, for example, or we have the Venstre Party in Denmark, for example, or Centerpartiet or Liberalerne in Sweden, that are member parties. They're coming together in this ALDE party, building a European-wide network. So it's a place for learning from each other, from networking, of coming together and forming joint policies. What are we going to work for in the European Parliament? And together we also form a group in the European Parliament.
Yeah, so but you're not elected as ALDE representatives. You're just like an interest organization.
Exactly. It's like a European-wide party. So as we're not having transnational elections, so it's the national parties that get elected. But to be stronger together on a European level, we form a European-wide party. So it's the umbrella organization of national parties.
Yeah. Can anyone become a member of ALDE? What are the criteria? Is there like a political spectre involved here, or how do you decide on this?
So it's kind of like an indirect membership. So when you are a member of a national party, you're automatically a member of the European Party because your party is a member.
Oh, I'm a member then.
So yeah, basically, yeah. So you're a member. So you could, if you're a member of a Venstre, for example, but this also goes for other political parties. They all have European umbrella parties.
Yes.
So you can attend those events, and it is meant to, learn from each other, network, has someone else done a great campaign that we could use in our national campaigns, for example, and of also forming a joint political position on the European level that the liberal parties are together then voicing into the European Parliament or towards the Council, where all the member states are coming together, because we also have quite a few head of governments, for example, Kaja Kallas from Estonia, Mark Rutte from the Netherlands. They're all from our party family.
Yeah, and what about the Ukraine-Russian situation? Has that become some tension internally, or is it dealt with in an okay way? Or Because I guess you have some for both countries.
Yeah. From ALDE perspective, we were very, very strong from the beginning. We're very clearly standing by the side of Ukraine. Actually, the party of the President Zelensky is a member party of ALDE, so they're our sister party. So we're very, very strongly standing behind them. We've been very strong in advocating for financial support, for weapon support to Ukraine and to rebuild the country. We're very much continuously in contact with each other. We also have Russian member parties, but they're the opposition parties. Actually, one of the parties just have been forbidden in Russia. They have been declared illegal in Russia because they're in the opposition.
So they have to live in Brussels now.
I think a lot of them are had to leave the country. Actually, had to flee the country because they have been in opposition for many years, and quite few of those opposition politicians have been killed in Russia as well.
Yes, it's a complete disaster what's going on. How many of your liberals are there in the EU Parliament? Is it a good broad number of people, or?
I think we're quite a cool gang, if I may say so.
It doesn't take too many to be a cool gang.
Yeah, we're like the third largest group. There are 7 groups inside the European Parliament. So you have like the Conservatives, you have the Social Democrats, then you have the Liberals, we're the third largest with around 100 members. You have Green, Left Party, and right-wing party and right-wing extremist party. So we're quite a strong force. There's basically no majority building without our group. But we're not only the Liberals. We're also building a group together with other forces that are not aligned. For example, the party from Macron from France. They're also with us in our party group.
What would you say now? This is one thing I'm concerned about personally because I'm also a liberal or liberalist. The state of liberal politics. To me, at least in Norway, it seems to be not of the most popular choice. Well, where is liberal politics at? Is it up or is it down or is it in a good state? Or what are your thoughts on this?
I think what is the biggest challenge for liberal policies is that we need a lot of explanations. The times are very complicated and there are a lot of people that are promising easy answers, but there are no easy answers right now.
No.
But we need to work on making our complex answers easier understandable. And I think this is the biggest challenges because the problems that we're seeing, liberals do have the answers for. I mean, we see the cost of living crisis, we see inflation, we see the economy situation. And we're also Norway that has, a lot of natural resources that they're using, renewable and non-renewable. There will be a shift. Germany is currently, and thank you for helping us out to get out of the Russian gas dependency.
Not everyone is supporting it, you know that?
Yeah, I know. But
it's a big debate here.
I understand that it's a big debate, but you're really helping us out because we need gas for the transition towards renewable energies. So we're not procrastinating our transition, but it's better to get it from Norway than from Russia, in my opinion, because you're a stable democracy. But this biggest customer of Norwegian gas will also fade out soon. We're in a transition phase of all of our economy throughout Europe. So we really need to future-proof that to have a strong economy. Our whole society only is functioning because we have strong economies. Our whole social welfare system needs strong economies. Our education needs strong economies that creates labor, that creates good paying jobs. So economy will be a very big topic in the next European elections. Security and defense, the idea of a fredsunion, like a peace union. This is something that I think a lot of people see now, and I was born in 1989. I've only known ever more united Europe.
Berlin Wall, same year.
Exactly. I was like 3 months old when the Berlin Wall fell. So, I mean, I just know the stories from my mom that she was sitting on the sofa with me on her breast crying that she never thought it would be possible that her kid would grow up in a united country.
Yeah, I think that's the problem, that when we are only told things and haven't experienced it, we don't learn it as well as being there yourself.
Absolutely, but I think with Russia's war now, everyone is seeing how up to date this peace project really is. So security defense will be also very important topics, and foreign policy. I mean, the conflict that we see right now, and we see it in Ukraine, that Russia turned into a battlefield. We see it in the economic conflict with China. The conflict of our time is autocracy versus democracy, and we see that in everything. And I think it is so important that the European democracies, and especially those inside the EU and those closely aligned, like Norway, stand up together and work to become better, work to improve, to come over the flaws that we, of course, are having. Because what are the alternatives?
Yeah.
You know, it's it really democracies that need to stand together and take their place in the world and defend what they believe in.
Yeah. Åsmund, we are the small, medium-sized champions of companies in Norway. What would you want to say to our listeners, because you work on these matters in supporting them in funding projects, etc.? How would they approach it to engage EU or funds in a way that could benefit their own businesses? How can I go forward talking to you, by the way, or whoever?
Well, I think it's important for Norwegian businesses and companies to be aware of the possibilities of the European market, and I guess most of them are directly or indirectly anyway working with the international matters and especially Europe, and of course also Germany. Germany is a huge market for Norwegian products and services and tourism, and a lot of our members are dealing with these markets on a daily basis. And I think it's important for them to be, try to keep up with all the political developments and changes and regulations and rules that we like to think that Norway is not a member, but all the rules, regulations are affecting us in positive or negative ways, and it's important to be aware of that, and also to maneuver in that ocean of the threats and opportunities.
Yes,
as a business.
Yeah. And if you have a clever idea, could this be something for the union? Talk to Åsmund.
Well, try to have an idea, and SMB Norway, of course, is happy to help out if you have some questions related to either regulations and or things happening on that in that framework, but also on funding opportunities. The EU is huge on different funding opportunities, and that's also super interesting for a lot of,
and especially towards the old and Eastern Bloc countries. There's a lot of
that's some special funding from Norway, like in bilateral funding with like Czechia or Romania, Bulgaria, these kind of countries. There's some special funding, which is also super interesting. But maybe that funding is easier to get, but it also can be like a starting point for bigger projects, also involving other EU countries.
Svenja, what are the political issues you are most concerned about in your day-to-day life within the EU system? Well, what is on your main?
Well, for me, a big priority I'm working on currently is AI regulation. About how we as a society can use the opportunities through AI, but also close the door to the negative opportunities, like we see in China, like mass surveillance through AI, for example. How can we safeguard citizens' rights, but also ensure that European companies are on the forefront of developing new technologies, because we're seeing the biggest revolution coming since the Industrial Revolution through AI. It's going to change our societies, our economic systems. So how can we have a good set of rules that ensure citizens' rights but creates good opportunities?
Are you an optimist or are you concerned about the development?
I'm an optimist. But I absolutely do believe that we need safeguards, because we already see how this technology can be used. We see it in Iran, where the regime is using biometric identification to identify women not being, whaled up. We see it in China, where they have a social scoring model where they rate citizens based on their behavior, where you cannot do a step without being followed by cameras.
Yes, or it changes something for your family because you did something. Yes,
exactly. So this is a use of technology that should not have a place in liberal democracies. And coming from a country where we had two regimes, non-democratic regimes, we should always, make our rules for the worst case.
Because there will always be someone taking advantage of that. We spoke with our main partner here, Palo Alto Networks, yesterday, because we had this digital security, small, medium-sized businesses, a risk, and we spoke about this in the podcast yesterday. You know, we have deepfakes now that are really good. What about when you come to the point that someone with an ill intent changes your results because they want you to reduce your value on the stock market so they can buy you, more advanced kind of deep fakes in a different manner, AI stuff, scary stuff.
That is a good example. I mean, we're talking about a time where specific CEOs can have like rock star kind of fame, where a tweet, or I don't know how you call it now, an X, can shake up the stock market. So those have been very unprecedented times. So those are things that we absolutely need to talk about as society, as lawmakers. Do the laws that we have are up to date? And I'm fairly certain that we will have to update most of the laws in the next years for the changes of AI. Yeah.
Bureaucracy. We are very concerned about bureaucracy. It's a Norwegian thing. We love too much bureaucracy.
Well, being a German, I understand the importance of cutting red tape. I can tell you that.
But what are the Alliance of Liberals and Democrats for Europe Party, or ALDE? What are your main themes to try to reduce bureaucracy or stress for small and medium-sized businesses in Europe?
Actually, we're advocating for SME check, kind of, that no law should be passed without having a check how it would affect SMEs.
Consequences, yes.
Because what we're seeing right now, formally the European Commission is supposed to make an impact assessment of each law that they're proposing. In the past, we have seen they have cut out the step because they said there is no time for that and it's a political priority. So we're kind of like, sometimes walking blindly because we do not know what would the actual impact will be. Is it possible to apply those rules? What would be the cost of applying those rules? Is there a proper balance between the hope for effects and the costs and bureaucracy it puts on, especially SMEs? So I think we will have to insist on this impact assessment and have special impact assessment for SMEs. Is this doable? I told you I was working in an SME, and we German standard SME, so we had like 700 employees.
Bigger than us.
So I think for Norwegian standards, it's already a bigger company. But we had to it was a pen producing company, just to adhere to one EU law, which was requiring to change all the labelings. They had to hire 2 people to comply with one law, and there's a lot of laws coming. So this is always my personal bureaucracy reminder, or my SME reminder, that we need to we're often debating, about big companies, often non-EU companies, but that we're also always targeting SMEs with this kind of rules. And what I think is very important, so the Commission under Ursula von der Leyen, they said they're going to do one in, one out. One new law coming in, one going out. Yeah. I checked what they did in the last year. Do you want to take a wild guess how many laws went
100
out?
100 in, 0 out.
I actually don't know how much in, but it was like 1 out. And it was funnily the 1 out, it was like a new car emission standards, and the old car emission standards went out. So they didn't really make even the effort. No. So I think this is something we need to look into. I personally think we need a sunset clause on legislation. So sunset clause, it automatically has a ticking clock, and then after 5-10 years, how much time you give it, it needs to be revised. Is this law still up to date? Do we need to update, or don't we need it anymore? So I think that would make sense.
The challenge is I'm personally concerned about the earth being on fire. Yeah. And how can innovation save our planet? Because I'm a huge innovation optimist. Wouldn't it demand less regulations in order for the smart heads to just start to innovate?
I fully agree with you. We need innovation to save the climate. I think we've seen that in Corona. Everyone was stuck at home and no one was traveling. and still the reduced emission were not enough. So it's clear that degrowth is not the answer. So we need to look into how can we make growth sustainable? How can we decouple it from use of resources, for example, so it is like a multitude of things that we need to play, like recycling, circular economy, of renewable energies, and there's a lot of different laws going on. But I'm fully with you. We need to be innovation friendly, and I think it's a problem with politics if they try to set the means. I think politics should set the goal, which is clearly cutting the emission, but we would need to leave it to the market, to the creative minds, to come up with solutions how to do that. What is the best way? Because I'm not going to lie to you.
No.
I'm not an engineer. I don't know the best way
Neither
for
of
that.
us.
Neither of us is that. But I fully agree with you. We want innovation coming from Europe. And I think that is the biggest risk, that we over-regulate, because there may be people scared of AI, for example. But we should not forget we have a set of rules. AI, for example, is a tool. A lot of bad things you can do with AI are already illegal. You don't need AI for that.
Tell it to the Russians and Chinese.
Yeah, absolutely. For them, it is a tool, like with disinformation, for example, that they use to try to meddle in our election. But this is already illegal. So where we need to work on is to counter that, to inform people about that. So it's also an education thing. So it's all coming back to being a huge challenge for us on society on many levels. But I also do believe, and I see many companies already working on their own code of conduct, for example, on how to use new technologies in a proper and more democratic way.
Yep. And how can we all, as Europeans, still keep our freedom and at the same time still save the planet? There's also some interest going towards each other there. Interest, conflict, whatever.
Yeah.
Regulations, I mean. Yeah.
I think this is very interesting because we have a big debate in Germany as well, where we have a huge, especially youth movement, where they ask the state to forbid more things, to ban more things. I personally don't think this is a solution. I think we need to be able to make our lifestyle more sustainable in the way we do. I mean, we see things like meat from the lab. I mean, those are very exciting technology advances to be able to reduce, for example, the dairy production or meat production. So we see, e-fuels, for example, to revolutionize aviation. So I think technology really is the key there. And I believe we see already a huge change in European society and awareness for climate protection. But I think the key is that we try to help others in the world. We have great technologies when it comes for recycling, for example, because we're not going to save the world alone. So we need to see how can we support others in that. How can we transport this technology? I'm also working in trade. I'm also advocating for technology partnerships. Good example is Chile. We have a raw material agreement with Chile, getting like lithium that you need for batteries or solar panels, for example. Why are we not investing there and producing solar panels there on the ground? That would help their economic growth, but also help combating climate change together. So I think we should not forget to look beyond Europe and see how we can support other countries with technology development.
Yeah. One final question here then. How concerned are you about the development in politics, the dividing language that goes on worldwide, everywhere? Is this a concern for you? I see, and I'm personally worried about the tone that we see very often, that it's so polarized, that it's a kind of like a ride or die. Yeah.
I'm particularly worried when I see democratic parties doing that. I think those pro-EU, pro-democratic parties, they need to be able to debate respectfully with each other, to not, do a mean tweet just for the clicks, because we have enough populists already that don't caring about respect and the debate.
But populism is on the huge growth.
Yeah, unfortunately, we see that through all European countries. Populism, both on the left and on the right.
Yes.
And they are the ones promising easy answers in difficult times.
Yeah.
And that is what I meant, what I said very early in our conversation. Especially liberals need to work on giving easy, understandable answers to complex topics. Because...
But without being a populist.
Without being a populist, exactly.
Because populism is easy slogans.
It's easy slogans, but it's not easy going, because they're not having the solutions to fix the actual problems.
No.
And we see that in countries where there are in parliament now. I mean, we look towards Italy, where it's a right-wing party in government now.
Yes.
And I mean, the things that they're doing is, gay mothers can no longer be two mothers. So one mother is crossed off of the birth certificate.
Returning development.
Exactly.
Going backwards.
And that is a threat for women. That is a threat for minorities. That is a threat for us as a society as a whole.
Yeah.
For this liberal democracies that we have built up. And I think this is, and for me, this is inherently European values.
Yeah.
And we need to defend that. And we see this democracy versus autocracy, not only the EU versus the world, we see it also inside European countries. And we have countries that are really on the path away from democracy. Hungary, Poland, Italy maybe next. So we also have to fight this fight for democracy inside the European Union.
Yeah, and having a good discussion is very important. Arendalsuka is very busy, and Åsmund had to run. What are your thoughts about Arendalsuka? You've been here all week, or...?
I came here on Tuesday, and I love it. It's first time I'm at such a political festival. I love the vibe. I love meeting the people. Everyone is so open. Learning so much. For me, it's also really cool as a EU politician to come to other European countries to learn and to talk, because we're so closely intertwined. To get a better understanding of Norway. And it's my first time in Norway, and I'm absolutely in love with the country, and I love Arendalsuka.
Yeah, it's very good. What are your thoughts about Norway going into the Union? It's not a popular vote here for that in Norway at the moment.
Well, I personally would always advocate for that.
Yeah.
I mean, Norway anyways have to adhere to most of the EU rules to have this market access. But they're not having a say at the table when those rules are being set.
No.
So I personally think there would not be that much formal change for Norway if they would be an EU member. They would just have more to say actually than they have now on those rules that they anyways have to apply for the market access.
But also more to pay, and I think
also
that is
more to pay.
That is the reason why it's not
true.
a yes here. I think.
So I think you can do a math on that. I'm not sure how that will look like, but it's also a bit about the position in the world, because we see that autocratic countries are on the rise. We see that traditional allies are changing, and it is a bit about the role in the world. And I think the European countries are better together, and preferably inside the European Union, as a force together for democracy, for freedom, also looking towards foreign policy and defense and economic interest. So I think doing the maths, counting all together, I think it would pay off for Norway being in there. But obviously I'm biased, but I personally would always advocate that there should be a referendum for Norwegian people to have a new vote, because I think the last referendum was early 90s, 94. So a lot of people that could vote now have not even been born there. So I think this is something that makes sense to have maybe a new referendum on, so that the Norwegian people can have a say about that.
We will see. If any of our listeners would check out ALDE, where would you want to direct them to?
You can just go to the website, alde.eu. Check that out, or follow us on social media. We share a lot about European politics, but also from national politics from other countries. That can be quite inspirational as well.
Thank you to Palo Alto Networks, our partner in crime here in Arendal, for supporting us. And thank you, Svenja Hahn, for the good talk. Good luck further on with Arendalsuka. And thank you a lot for doing this.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a lovely conversation.
Thank you.